Happy Monday, all you minties. This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your advanced look at The Avengers by Busiek and Perez Omnibus, Volume 1 from Marvel Comics. So, stay tuned. Alright, so here we go. Before going any further, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on December 3rd or 4th, depending on where you get your books. So speaking of direct market, that is exactly what we're looking at here. We're looking at the cover of the direct market. Now, I'm going to be comparing it to my original printing, and that's there on the left-hand side. I believe that is the exact same dust jacket that they will be using for the new printing of the standard edition. But for the first time, it has a direct market. Of course, both of them drawn by the phenomenal George Perez. But we're going to be looking at the spines. And I really like this. I like this black banner down here. Even though it had it before, just seems, I don't know, the black on this burgundy or red really stands out. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, The Avengers. Kurt Busiek, George Perez, Volume 1. And there is no mention of a Volume 2 yet. A reprint of a Volume 2, but I'm sure it will come. Don't forget to vote in February for your top 20 most wanted. I think I gave everybody 5 choices last year. Yeah, we'll do that again this year and then send it over to Marvel. But here's what the backs of the books look like. And each of these books retailing for $125. Both the original printing and the new printing. Underneath the dust jacket, you're going to find, actually it's the same thing. It's the image, there we go, from issue number 1, or what they're using for the standard edition. Right there. So it's that wraparound image. And it is a very gorgeous image by George Perez. Alright, so we're going to open this up, talk about some of the stories collected in here, check out the artwork, and then of course compare it to the original printing. Just to see how the art differs, if there's any color differences, or the way the book lays over. Now, one very important thing that I want to stress before I go ahead and talk about the stories in here is that it is an interesting time of Avengers, because all of this takes place after Heroes Return. So after the Avengers were over with the image creators for a year, they came back, and, well, there are things in here that happen that have returning characters. And pretty much the status quo for some of these Avengers are different than what they are today. Some of them were dead during this time, and one in particular I have to mention, and when the character died. I'm not going to talk about how exactly, but just in case, minor spoilers for things, little bit of things that happen before this run starts. I'm not going to talk about how he gets fixed or how they come back or anything like that and go into detail. But just in case, if you're a stickler for no spoilers at all, then just in case, minor spoilers. Okay, let's open this up. We have some red end paper, which is similar to what the first volume had. This beautiful image right there. This Ultron. Oh my gosh, the stories collected in here. You are in for a treat. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, The Avengers by Kurt Busiek and George Perez. Here are all your writers. Mark Waid, I think he was stepping in to do the Captain America crossover, the Live, Free or Die. John Francis Moore, Jerry Ordway, who does a couple guest issues in here, also drawing them. Roger Stern, of course, his co-writer on Avengers Forever. Oh. And then your pencilers. Yes, most of this is penciled by George Perez and Carlos Pacheco, both whom passed away in 2022. And it feels so weird to talk about that. Here are your inkers, who are also the heroes of these books. You have Alve, who does a lot. Actually, I think he does all the inks for George Perez. This is really cool. So this is, even if I wasn't going to talk about spoilers, this kind of gives you an idea of where the Avengers are, their powers, and kind of what the status quo is right before the book starts. Now, it's not every single Avenger, but it's the ones that play the role, an important role rather, in the first story arc that kind of sets up the new Avengers status quo, including Jarvis. There's my boy Living Lightning and Stingray. Very underutilized characters. All right, so kicking it off with the Heroes Return, the Avengers. So this takes place during that same time that there was a Heroes Return Captain America, Heroes Return Thor, and Heroes Return Iron Man. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, these characters were taking into leased out, rather, because they did pay some money for the characters for a year, for 12 months. And there was a 13th issue that has never been collected anywhere because it features Wildstorm characters. But then they came back to the Marvel Universe. So they started over with a brand new number 1, and that will go back and forth with legacy issues later on. But with a brand new number 1, they were like, okay, we're returning the characters back to Marvel. We need a new writer. We need a new team. And they got the legendary George Perez to come back and draw. This is so cool that they did that. And then Kurt Busiek, who to me is one of the 5 people on this planet that are walking encyclopedias of every event, not just at Marvel, but at DC, and can tell you, with respect, a hell of a story featuring characters. Oh my gosh. This is amazing. And the amount of little details and the small panels, crazy. And there's only one person that could draw all of these Avengers in action poses. Oh my goodness. Okay. But this collects issues 1 through 23 of the 1998 relaunch of Avengers, the issue number 0, the rough cut issue number 1, and then the Live, Kree, or Die crossover, which is Iron Man number 7, Captain America number 8. There's also Quicksilver number 10 in here. Both of the annuals 98 and 99, and then the 12-part maxi series Avengers Forever, which is one of my favorites, and I'll talk about what that is here in a little bit. Alright, so what's going on? What is Avengers? What's bringing them together? Okay, well, they don't really acknowledge the fact, what happened in the Heroes Reborn universe. They don't really talk about that. They kind of skip over that. We see some attacks by giant monsters, and they're attacking different parts of the world. Thor comes into the Avengers mansion, and he's like, whoa, the Midgard's at peril. We need to do something. We need to band together. So they do. They bring everyone together, except Hulk, of course, because, Hulk plays by his own rules, and during this time, he's going through his own hero's return. Because even though, how do I word this? Hulk did not go into the Heroes Reborn universe. Bruce Banner did. Yeah. And then they're together again, but he's going through his own thing. Alright, so they're like, okay, let's form the team. Let's get the band back together. Let's get every Avenger available. So the call goes out. I love that Hawkeye's like, of course they called me. I'm one of the first people they called, but it's every person that is living during this time that has ever held the title of Avenger, and some that have actually helped out on certain missions. And 2 very important characters that will play a big part in this are Firestar and Marvel Boy, or Justice as he's known during this time. And they're from the pages of New Warriors. And they are about to graduate. Alright, so this is one of my favorite scenes. This is when pretty much Thor's explaining exactly what's going on, what's being attacked. They have to get this sword, this magical sword, away from the bad guys before they destroy the world. And they decide to split up the Avengers. They're like, okay, the best course of action is to split up the Avengers and attack different sectors of these beings that are coming to Earth and attacking us. And then Justice is like, wait a second. Look, I know I'm new. I'm from the New Warriors. Justice here. But if we split up the teams, it could be a trap. And I love everybody's face just looking at him like, yeah, no crap. We know. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay. I guess I'm in the big leagues now. I love that. That without any dialogue, he knows what he's dealing with here. So the Avengers do eventually split up. We see some returning characters. This is the sword I was talking about. And one of the big characters is Morgan Le Fay. She comes back, takes the sword, and rewrites history, giving us this medieval Avengers type of story, which is awesome. Now, the story only lasts 3 issues, which is interesting because most of the time when we think about a first story arc, we immediately think, oh, it's got to be at least 6 issues. Sometimes they do 4 issues. But this is the story I was going to talk about that brings back the character that at the time had been dead. And again, it's just not going to go into detail as to how he died, but he did die in the pages of Force Works, and that is Simon Williams, Wonder Man. Now, here, he is brought back. Now, he's not brought back whole yet, he's just an energy being, but then later on, he does come back fully, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, because that does add a big drama factor to everything, especially if you know the history between Vision and Wonder Man, and of course the original Human Torch. Oh, there's so much history in here. And one of my favorite endings. What are we going to do with 39 Avengers? And of course it's Beast, taken from the What Are We Going to Do with 39 X-Men Pages of X Factor, number 69. No, number 70. How dare I? So, with issue number 4 is where you get your new lineup. Everybody else will be a supporting Avenger, a backup Avenger, but by the end of issue 4, you get your new lineup of Avengers. And I love this lineup. It's one of my favorite lineups of all time. It's probably because I enjoy this run so much. But that is Captain America, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, Thor, Justice, Firestar, Vision, Iron Man, and Miss Marvel, who at this time was going as binary, but then she decides to go on with a new code name, Warbird, because she's leaving the space traveling adventures behind. And that is the setup. Oh my gosh. And there's so much goodness in here. Here's the fight with the Squadron Supreme. Again, most of this drawn by George Perez. A couple of fill-in issues here and there. You have the return of some other characters, too. This is the crossover with Iron Man and Captain America, the Live Free or Die, which, of course, plays heavily with the character of Warbird, Carol Danvers. This is the Squadron Supreme from the annual right here, annual number 98. And then we have some newer characters, too. We have Triathlon trying out for the team. And you're starting to see a relationship between Wanda and Wonder Man. Because they had a relationship before. That's kind of why she is so attracted to Vision to begin with. And that plays heavily because now that Wonder Man's back, what does that mean for Vision? Because he wants to get back with Wanda. So a lot of drama like that is what you're going to be seeing in here. You're going to be seeing some returning dead characters. Now, the big question is, will it help to have known Avengers back then? Like, would it help to get, like, have a history of Avengers in your head, so when characters come back, you're like, oh, it's so-and-so from that one storyline, or I can't believe they're doing it. Not really. The only time it would really come in handy is for this story right here, and that is the Avengers Forever. So Avengers Forever, to me, is one of the best ideas that I think Marvel, the editors and the writers ever came up with. The idea behind Avengers Forever is, okay, we've had a lot of inconsistencies, we've had a lot of bad stories throughout the years of Avengers. We've had stories where characters acted out of character because the writer wasn't comfortable with the character, didn't know the character. How do we fix this? And one particular storyline is the teenage Tony, for anybody that has read The Crossing. Well, through Avengers Forever, which is a time travel story that features mainly Janet and Giant Man, so Hank, and then different Avengers from different eras, traveling through time, trying to fix things or learn about things. Kurt Busiek with Roger Stern decide to fix a lot of those issues by doing one of the best retcons I've ever seen in comics, where somebody with the knowledge and history of these characters, and like I said, the most important part too, is respect, and also being a fanboy, knows a lot of the stories that fans were not happy with. Now, some fans were. I mean, Teenage Tony bothers a lot of people. I get it. It didn't bother me as much, but it bothered a lot of people. And they fix it through here. They make, I don't want to say excuses, because every story gets fixed a little bit different, but I thought it was such a brilliant idea to do it. And it is the one story that I think would benefit from you knowing a little bit of history. Knowing a lot of history, you will love this. Knowing a little bit of history of Avengers, you're going to be in for a ride, and you're going to be in for a lesson in the history of Avengers. Because that is one thing that Kurt Busiek and Roger Stern understand, because they come from the Stan Lee days of every comic is somebody's first issue. So they understand that they have to go in there and kind of teach people a little bit about the history of and why they're being fixed. So that's not just through Avengers Forever, that's through the actual pages of Avengers as well. You do get a sense of nostalgia, even if you're not familiar with the characters or the storylines. And that is one thing that I love about this run. This run means a lot to me. I think I've shared that on my channel. This is one of my favorite collections. I'm so glad it's back in print. When my dad was in a coma back in 2010, these are the stories I was reading at his bedside. So the stories here will always remind me of that time, and that is comics in general to me. They're always a time capsule taking me back to another time, whether it was a good time, whether it was a wonderful time, or whether it was a horrible time, that's what these comics remind me of, and almost empower me to keep moving forward. Silly to say that, but that's the way that I feel, and that's the way I've always felt about these type of stories. It's a good thing I was reading this and maybe not Trouble or Marvel, but you get the idea. Oh my gosh, we get the return of Beast. I love it. Beast comes back, so you get the team up of Wonder Man and Beast. Back to like the good old days of Avengers. And that's what this really feels like. Like, it's like a throwback to those classic superhero books. It's wonderful. What makes the series so interesting is that they are able to reintroduce all these characters and then reintroduce the Avengers to a world that believed the Avengers were dead. So they have to deal with things that they wouldn't have to have dealt with before, like press coverage. They have to make sure their names are clear. I love that about this run. And reintroducing these characters to the world, you get reintroduced to them. It's freaking awesome. The one negative thing I will say is I wish they had kept Avengers. I know they did it in the chronological publishing order. I wish they had kept Avengers Forever towards the end, mainly because it only affects 2 Avengers, and it kind of breaks up a little bit of the story flow that you're reading in the middle. And it kind of breaks up that flow of the story that I know I was really enjoying, and then they throw it in there. Now, of course, these have been collected before in oversized hardcover format. They've been collected in trade paperbacks. That's when I first read these, were in oversized hardcover. And Avengers Forever came in a separate hardcover, because there were a total of 6 of them. Yes, one kick-ass story after another. And this is the, oh my gosh, the return of Ultron. This is Ultron Unleashed. And there's one part in here that I remember thinking, oh my gosh, if they ever make a movie that features Ultron, this part has to be in there. And again, drawn by George Perez, Alvey inking it, and it's one of my favorite moments of Ultron Unleashed. It comes from this issue right here, all the way in the back. It's not spoiling anything, I promise. This iconic scene that's always embedded in my head of these heroes. Ultron, we would have words with thee. How did they not use that in the movie? Gosh, that's practically written for you. So badass. Oh my gosh. All right. The Ultron story wraps up, and then we get a story with Wanda, Simon, and Vision. Finally, this love triangle, maybe not working out. One way to find out. And then, I believe this is from issue number 0, but no, issue number 0 is already in there. I did skip around a lot. I didn't want to talk about every single issue, but let's look at the extras in the back. Oh, this is the rough cut stuff. So you get some behind the scenes, including original artwork, penciled artwork before Alvey gets the inks, or gets to ink them. Just look at that detail, man. Perez was on another level. Reason why that man is a legend. The script, which you have to read it like that, of course. Unused covers. And something you may have noticed is that sometimes the variants are on the opposite side of the standard edition covers. This is a poster right here by George Perez. And this is pretty much the team that I talked about, with the inclusion of Wonder Man up there. And Vision. No, Vision was on the team, that's right. Heroes Return covers from Marvel Visions. Y'all remember those books? It was like the, what was it, like the Marvel Age books. They were trying to replace them and bring them back. This is the inside CGI cover images. And oh my gosh, this is so awesome. You know, when writing comics, if a writer comes in and decides to change something, I always thought it was really cool and important to do the work and show the work. May come from my wife being an English teacher, but I think it's really important to do that. Giving giving characters powers or storylines that no one's ever read. So what they did here for Avengers Forever are the sources and the continuity notes. So if you're a fan of history, what a great way to catch up on Avengers. Like when the stories took place. Kang's origin retelling is drawn from Avengers number 8 and 269. So awesome, because Kang has a complex story. An introduction to the Avengers Assemble hardcover, right there. So pretty much everything that's been collected before in oversized hardcovers is what's collected in here. Is this from... Oh, this is Avengers number 0. It also featured a 4-page backup dealing with Ultron's history. And Jocasta. Visionaries, trading cards. Oh, the freaking poster right here. This is the 30th anniversary poster. Love it. Love the different Iron Man armors. We seriously lost one of the best artists of all time. Damn. Trade paperback covers. And then these are just variant covers here. I believe, no, covers without the colors. Alright, let's look at the binding. 1,184 pages. That's what the binding looks like. And this one was printed at the iMac printer. There is a little bit of bleed through from the opposite side, or the opposite page rather. Whenever you're looking at a lot of whites on a page, you can see like the word bubble back here, or some of the frames. But there's a lot of colors in this one, so I don't know. I know it bothers some people and it doesn't bother others. Let me compare it to the original printing. Alright, original printing, new printing down here. Go ahead and crack these open. Hey, that worked out really well. Same color of end paper. You can see the way that this one lays over compared to this one here. And this iconic image right there. That's also being used for the variant cover. And the reds seem a little bit darker down here on the new printing than they do the original printing. The original printing, by the way, was printed at the Donley printer. And that was in 2014. So that's when that one came out. Really no difference there. Let's look at the introduction to the characters. And yes, that's the page I want to look at. But I wanted to look here at... It's a lot of white there. You can see just a little bit more here of some of the art bleeding through, or some of the words bleeding through from the opposite page. But not really a lot, surprisingly. But this is what I wanted to compare right here. The way that the book lays over really affects pages like this, especially towards the beginning, the spread pages. Alright, so up at the top again, the original printing, the way it lays over. Over here, you have more of a gutter curve. So some of the artwork is lost in there. Not a lot. I mean, you can hold it like this. You still have to hold it like this on the original printing, but you do get more of the art. For example, like Black Widow's knee is missing unless you really hold it down right there. Over here, it's like the right side of her face, but you have to hold it down. And that's just one of the differences there. Let's keep going a little further. To issue number 8, where there's some whites here, but down here in the new printing, you can tell one of the panels is coming through, and a little bit here too. So it's not like this is perfect, and the paper they were using for this is really thick. But it is thicker than the new printing. I mean, there's no denying that. And again, the way that the book lays over. Now, this one I've only read twice. It's been read twice. So it's been opened properly. Spine has been stretched and only read twice. Alright, let's look in the middle. Just wanted to show this because I love the different covers they use for this particular issue. I think there's a total of 4 or 5 of them, maybe? Again, just showing the differences in the whites right there. And the colors, a little darker down here. And then I figure I stop over here with issue number 0. So remember this one having, yeah, that right there. I mean, no different than what some of the art bleeding through in the beginning is. But, well, that was completely coincidence. But yes, this is what the differences are. The way the books lay over, the colors are a little bit darker here. And of course, the paper's a little bit thinner. This was printed almost 10 years ago. And this was printed in 2022. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build, and of course comparison to the original printing of this book. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking this up, if this is your first time reading this run, if you've read it before in trade paperbacks, single issues, oversized hardcovers, and if you're hoping that they reprint a volume 2 sometime. If you have any questions, leave your questions down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.